Viriyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. And to be late is to be forgetful. A Baghavad student in Pittsburgh had taught me this last week when I was there. This is a quote that her music teacher would share with her. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. And to be late is to be forgetful. The reason why to be early is to be on time is because you and I need time to adjust our mind from field 1 to field 2. And before I explain where I'm going with this, by a show of hands, how many of you don't work at Walmart? Because I was told to ask that when I started. Okay, fair enough. I'm told that at least in the Walmart retail stores, that they have a Walmart cheer in the morning to get everyone in the mood to serve customers. It's no different than a college football team that has a pep rally before. In the same way, before we study Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we chant the Dhyanam shlokas. Dhyana means meditation. These are shlokas upon which we are to meditate so we can tune in to the message of Lord Krishna. These shlokas are not part of Gita. They're not part of those 700 shlokas. They're attributed to Madhusudana Saraswati. And you and I, coming from our respective jobs or homes, to help us tune in to the message of Gita, we will chant the Dhyanam shlokas over the next evenings. I believe many of you have this book, or if you have chapter 1 or 2, it's in there. We'll chant these together. Fair enough? Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratita Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Ambatvamanusandadami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamayah Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetreka Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahata Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishma Drona Tatha Jayadrata Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalya Grahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavairananadi Kaivartakah Keshavaha Parasharya Vachasaroja Mamalam Gitartha Gandodgatam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikata Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadera Haraha Pepiyamanam muda bhuyat bharata pankajam kalimala pradvamsina shreyase mukam karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam yam brahma varunendra rudra marutaha stunvanti divyaistavaihi vedai sangapadakramopaniषदैः gayanti yam samagaha dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yoginaha yasyantam na vidussurasuraganah devaya tasmai namaha devaya tasmai namaha. So now we're all tuned in, correct? Whenever we purchase a new object, a DVD player, a TV, a car, we're always given an instruction manual, how to operate this, how to take care of this. Whenever we meet someone new, there's always an introduction, just like what was done right now, because this is the first time many of us have met. Whenever we're in a new circumstance, we're always trying to find out more information about that circumstance. When I was sitting in the car from the airport to the home I'm staying at, I was asking, what's the population? What do people do? What is the weather like? Now, when it comes to life, how are we supposed to live life? What is the instruction manual? What is the introduction? Where is the information on how to live life? How do I know that I'm aligned with the purpose of life? And it reminds me of a talk which Puja Guruji had given in Indiana in 2008. Life is a gift, living is an art. And he made a statement that just because one has a violin doesn't make them a violinist. Just because I have a tabla doesn't mean I'm a tabla player. Just because I have life doesn't mean that I'm living life. Biologically, no doubt I am. I can hear, I can speak, I can see. But how do I truly know that I am living life? The only way to know if we are living life is if that aligns with the purpose of life. I was in Chicago once, and a lady had asked me, how do you know if you're successful? What is success? Define success. And I had shared with her that success always has to go in line with the purpose. And I'll give you an example about that. If I'm a physician, then success to me is how many patients that I can treat. If I'm an engineer, and I'm using a typical example, then how many bridges I can build or how many products I can design. So they have different gauges of success. They don't align. But what is that everyone in this room, in this building, in this city, every creature that ever lived and every creature that ever will live is seeking? Happiness. And so the successful person is the one who is happy. That is the purpose of life. That's how I know if I'm living life or not, is if I am happy. The most important question we will ever ask in our lives is, am I happy? And when I say, am I happy, don't look at me and start judging me. Yeah, he's asking, am I happy? We don't know if he's happy or not. Ask yourself that question, if you are happy. And many of us may say quickly that, yes, I am happy. So, what is this happiness that Lord Krishna is about to teach? Happiness that is independent. Not dependent on my health, my wealth, or my family. happiness that is constant. Not I'm happy in the morning, I'm happy during the day because I'm at work, and then I'm happy again at night. And happiness that is limitless. We have a certain amount of happiness when we eat the first gulab jamun, the second gulab jamun, but at the 10th, that happiness is limited. That's not the happiness that Lord Krishna is talking about. I had a funny incident happen when I was in Buffalo. I teach Vivekji in Buffalo. And after one of our discussions, a lady came up to me very sincerely. Vivekji, I have something personal to ask you. Sure, let's sit in the kitchen and let's talk. So looking at me straight in the eye, she says, I'm happy. Do I need to come to these discussions? And I asked her, I said, if your happiness is not dependent on your health, or your family, or your wealth, then you don't need to come to these discussions. You are living what Adi Shankaracharya is teaching. But if your happiness is dependent on these, then it's best you keep coming to these discussions and learning about what real happiness is. And a more intense incident is a story that Guruji had shared with us when we were studying in the Vedanta course. He was sharing that when camels walk through the desert, they're hungry, they're thirsty. And so they always go after this desert bush. But all plants, all humans, all animals, we create defense mechanisms. And so what this plant has done, it's put needles on its leaves in time. And so that camel driver always encourages that camel not to eat those bushes, but the camel still does. So it chews on this bush, and as it's chewing, those needles are puncturing the gums, puncturing the tongue, and so the camel starts bleeding. So it chews on it more, because that camel thinks that extract, that nectar, that essence is coming from the plant, when all it's doing is injuring itself. So when we ask, am I happy? Is it independent? Is it constant? And is it limitless? If yes, then I would be the first one to say, I'm so happy for it. Because you've achieved and are living the purpose of life. And if the answer is yes, then I'll say you're probably lying as well. We are honest with ourselves. We will realize that our happiness tends to be dependent, tends to be fluctuating, and tends to be limited. And in this honesty, we shouldn't get demotivated. Rather, that should be fuel to seek how I can be truly happy. And this is where we enter Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Have you ever thought about why we're studying Srimad Bhagavad Gita in Bentonville, Arkansas in 2011? When this was narrated over 6,000 years ago near Delhi? Why is this scripture so pervasive? It's been translated into dozens of languages. It's studied in dozens of countries. Why? The reason is that Srimad Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to transcend our problems. This scripture is not about problems. And I always laugh when people say, yeah, never keep Mahabharata in your home, because then there'll be fights between the family, right? A lot of us think that. But what we fail to appreciate, then Gita is not in our home either, is it? Mahabharata, Gita, Ramayana, these scriptures are not about problems. They're actually an actual depiction of our lives, our problems. This scripture is about solutions, which is why we keep on studying this. And beautifully, here we are studying Advaita Vedanta, but those who believe in Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, they study this too. Those who believe in Dvaita Vedanta, they study this too. everyone studies Gita because it's about solutions. And our Puja Gurudev has said, this is the best manual to live life. The best guidance for humanity. So when we buy a car and we see how to use, change the tires, change the oil, imagine the same is presented here. How to smile, how to think, how to behave, how to eat. All of that is contained in the scripture. And when Gurudev made this comment, he wasn't thinking 6,000 years ago to Arjuna. He wasn't thinking the last 50 years when he was teaching. This comment is eternal. It has to do with now. It has to do with 10,000 years from now. Because the focus of Gita is not on the context. Nobody rides chariots anymore. Nobody knows how to shoot a bow and arrow. Does that mean that Gita is irrelevant? This scripture is about content. And just like honesty was a virtue 1,000 years ago, honesty will be a virtue 1,000 years from now. That's why in Bharata we say, Satyam eva jayate, and will always be victorious. In the same way, anger was a vice then, anger is a vice now, anger will always be a vice. 20,000 years from now, anger is not going to be a great quality for someone to have. Even though we like to believe that, but it never will. And I have a great story to go along with this idea of content. One day, a king woke up with severe eye pain. And in this pain, he called his royal doctor and said, "Please, what's wrong with my eye?" And the doctor came and said, "I don't know, but try this." And the king tried, but the pain increased. So he sent word to bring all the physicians in the kingdom to come look at his eye. And everyone prescribed this and that and this and that. And his pain was only intensifying. And it became so unbearable that he sent word to all of the wise people in the kingdom, "Someone please help." And all of these wise people came and said, "Eat this, don't eat this, look at this, don't look at this." Then one wise man came and said, "The problem with your king is that he sees so many colors, and so it's hurting his eye. And if he only saw the color green, then that pain would go away." And when the ministers were hearing this, they thought, "What is this fool talking about?" But at this point, they're willing to try anything. So they ordered gallons of paint and cloth and dye and plants, and they started covering everything in green so that the king would only see that color. And slowly, that pain started subsiding. And it went away, totally. And in that joy, the king said, "Who suggested this?" And they had said, "This wise man. Send for him. We need to reward him. He's cured my pain." And so they sent for this wise man, and as he's coming to the palace, the ministers see him. So they immediately grab buckets of paint and throw it at him. And now he's drenched in all of this green paint. And he wipes his eyes and looks at them and says, "What are you doing?" And the minister said, "You're the one who said the king can only see green." "I did say that. But you could have saved a lot of paint and cloth and money if you just gave the king green glasses. Because everything he would have seen would have been green." And that's exactly what this scripture teaches us. We are all trying to cover the whole world in rubber, when the smart thing to do is wear shoes. Then anywhere I go, I will be happy. At work, at home, with my health. Even in the first shloka of chapter 1, Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya, "Kim akurvat?" What happened in Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra? He asked in the past tense. Why does he ask in the past tense? Why doesn't he say what's happening? because Vivekji was so insightful, he wants us to understand that what happened is incidental. The real Kurukshetra is this body. The real Dharmakshetra is this mind. That Srimad Bhagavad Gita is happening right now. What happened in Hastinapur? That's incidental. Who is Arjuna? Put our name there. That's who Arjuna is. This scripture is a map to know thyself. There's a profound movie that came out many, many years ago called The Matrix. And I hope many of you have seen the movie The Matrix. And if you haven't, your assignment tonight is watch The Matrix. Because I'm going to be using many more examples from The Matrix. And Neo, and interestingly, if you rearrange those letters, is one. And Neo also stands for neophyte, which means the one who strives, the yati, the one who's seeking. When he walks into the oracle's room, and the oracle's room, there's a sign in Latin above that living room. And what that sign says is, know thyself. And that's what the oracle's trying to encourage Neo, is to know himself. Because when he knows himself, he knows he has no limits. He's limitless. And all of our scriptures are teaching the same. That we have to know ourselves. And now we have a map in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The message of our scriptures and our masters is the simplest. 3 words. Tat Tvam Asi. That's it. If someone asks, what is Vedanta teaching? What are you studying on Sunday afternoons, mornings, or this week in the evenings? I'm studying Tattvamasi. Tat, that. Tvam, you. Asi, are. This message is so simple. I'm sure many of the degrees that you all have is more difficult than understanding Vedanta. When I was in business school, that was more difficult than studying in the Vedanta course. Because the message is singular here. But what's happened is that this mind doesn't accept anything that's simple anymore. I once heard a satsang, and the brahmacharini who was speaking began like this. She said, I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am what I think you're thinking about me. That's who I am. We add that many layers to our personality because we just don't appreciate that which is simple. And what Guruji had said along these lines is, when it comes to sadhana, whenever, say, Guru or Swami says, you should do this as sadhana. If it's too hard, we say, we can't do this. And if it's too simple, we don't have any faith in it. So we end up doing nothing. It's too hard or it's too easy, I don't do anything. And even Eckhart Tolle, in The Power of Now, which I'm sure many people have read, so beautifully puts it. If you can do something about something, do it and don't worry. If you can't do something about something, then you can't do anything, so don't worry. But what do? We don't worry about what we should worry about, and we do worry about what we can't do anything about. Like the weather. The most hilarious scene is when people complain about the weather. And I often try this exercise. See, you're lucky because you live in a relatively warmer part of the continent. To where I live in Niagara Falls, it's much colder. And sometimes I ask people, in wintertime, when I know that people are very glum, I say, for 2 minutes, I want you to complain about the weather as much as you can. I want you to curse the weather, I want you to yell out loud. And then after those 2 minutes, I say, is it any warmer? Did the snow stop? It's simple. That's what this message is. Tat Tvam Asi. And our Bhagavan Vivekji, who wrote Bhagavad Gita, he took this message of Tattvamasi and he opened it, like a zip file. The zip file sent, now open it. The first 6 chapters of Srimad Bhagavad Gita has to do with Tvam, you or me. And that's where we learn about Arjuna's struggle. That first 6 chapters describes the jiva, that ego which you and I are. Then the next 6 chapters deal with Tat. Who is Lord Krishna? What is his cosmic form? What are his cosmic capabilities? And the last 6 chapters are Asi. How I am that divinity. I have the same nature as Lord Krishna, just like everyone does. So this entire 700 shlokas is a bhashya on Tat Tvam Asi. And right now we chanted the Dhyanam shloka, Sarvo Panishado Gavaha. That says that the Vedas, and more specifically the Upanishads, are cows. And this cow, in our folklore we hear that a cow gives milk when there's a calf present. Who is a calf? Arjuna. Who is the calf? You and I. And Lord Krishna is the milkman. And he took the message of the Upanishads, Tattvamasi, from Chandogya Upanishad, and he extracted that and put it in a way that you and I can understand. Because we don't understand the language of the Vedas. We don't understand Sanskrit, period. And how grateful should we be to Gurudev, who took that Sanskrit and put it in English for you and I. Imagine studying Gita just in Sanskrit. No one would be here. Even I wouldn't be here, right? And now someone came and gave it in English. And even if we read the commentary, we're still thinking, okay, what does this mean? So this message, Tattvamasi, from the Upanishads, Bhagavan Vedyas is put into Gita. And we are in the middle of understanding what Tat is. We studied chapters 7 and 8 and 9 through Swami Ishwarananda, Swami Sarveshananda. We're about to embark on chapter 10. And that Tat has assumed the form of Lord Krishna, who's in the front of this picture right here. He is the infinite embodied. And when we see Lord Krishna, when we hear him, when we think of him, let us not get lost in his beauty, in his flute, in his hair, because he is the infinite. Swami Vivekananda has taught, don't worship Lord Krishna as Lord Krishna. Worship Lord Krishna as you. See oneself in Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna in oneself. And even Puja Guruji, when we were studying Vivekji, it's a huge text. I believe there's 581 shlokas. And over and over and over again, Adi Shankaracharya says, you are Brahman, you are Brahman, you are Brahman. And sometimes we get lost in the whole academics of it. And every once in a while, Guruji would stop, and we'd be writing our notes or reading, and he'd look at us and he'd say, I'm talking about you. I'm teaching about you. You are Brahman. In the same way, we are Lord Krishna. Right now, we believe we are limited, so we think Lord Krishna is limited. But if I slowly learn that I'm not limited, I will see Lord Krishna in his true essence. Even Arjuna, in chapter 1, he picks up his bow and says to Krishna, put my chariot in between both armies. Does anyone talk to the Lord like that? Because to Arjuna, that's just his cousin. His cousin who he grew up with, that he learned with, that he played with. He doesn't know he's the Lord. But once he does know he's the Lord, then that's where the true transformation takes place. in this chapter, we are going to see the grandeur of Lord Krishna. In chapter 9, Lord Krishna started giving hints to Arjuna that I am the greatness of this, I am the greatness of this. In this chapter, we are going to take the entire universe and see how Lord Krishna is inherently in every one of these aspects. And I love this chapter because it's utterly practical. How I can go to work and see Lord Krishna there. How I can be in a relationship and see Lord Krishna there. How I can be filling up gas and I can see Lord Krishna there too. And the way we're going to do this, like I said, we will chant the Dhyanam shlokas, then I will share some thoughts, and in the last 15 minutes, we will have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, in those last 15 minutes, I will try to answer them. The questions may be there, but the answers may not be there, but I will try to answer those in the last 15 minutes. And ideally, these questions should be about Gita, but if they're not, that's okay too. Because what I realized is, most of us, our questions are not about Vedanta. Most of our questions are about our families. I do a lot of Q&As and I do webcasts about this too. And 95% of the questions I get is, how do I be happy with my spouse? How do I deal with coworkers? How do I raise my children? And on and on and on. Because if I'm not happy at home, how am I going to learn what Lord Krishna is teaching? If I'm hungry, if you're hungry, do you think that you're going to be hearing anything I'm saying? This needs to be taken care of, then this needs to be taken care of. So in the same way, when we do these Q&A, this Q&A, definitely let's relate it to Gita, but if it's not, that's fine too. So with this, let us continue to listen to the samvada between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. We're in chapter 10, shloka 1, which is on page 7 in these books, in these turquoise books, and in your red books, what page is it? 609 if you have the new Gita books.
666.
Or 666 or 667. 667 or 609. Just go to the 600s and you'll find it.
Yeah.
Repeat after me, each pada. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Bhuya eva mahabaho.
Bhuya eva mahabaho.
Shunu me paramam vachaha.
Shunu me paramam vachaha.
Yatteham priyamanaya.
Yatteham priyamanaya.
Vakshami hitakamyaya.
Vakshami hitakamyaya.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha together. Bhuya eva mahabaho. Shunu me paramam vachaha. Yatteham priyamanaya. Vakshami hitakamyaya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Blessed Lord says. Right from the start, the term that we've seen many, many, many times in the first 9 chapters is Mahabaho. And Mahabaho means the one who's strong, the one with mighty arms. And Lord Krishna is making this observation because obviously Arjuna is mighty armed. He's already fought the Kauravas before, single-handedly, and defeated them. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this or not, but the day that the Pandavas came out of incognito, the Kauravas already knew where they were, and so they were hunting them. And the moment that that 13 years was complete, Arjuna lost it on the Kauravas. And single-handedly, he took everyone down. And they retreated. So no doubt, Arjuna is Mahabahu. And even better named than this is Savyasachi. Savyasachi means the one who's ambidextrous. Arjuna is known to be able to shoot arrows with both hands with equal skill. That's impressive. So when Lord Krishna says he's Mahabaho, No doubt. But the import of Mahabaho is not his physical arms. The import is that, Arjuna, you are capable of being great and strong, not just outside, but inside. Lord Krishna is encouraging you that greater than physical strength is mental strength. And even Edmund Hillary, the second person to climb Mount Everest, because his Sherpa had already climbed it before, Tenzin had already climbed it before. When he was interviewed afterwards, someone had said, Sir Hillary, you conquered Mount Everest. And he said, no, I didn't conquer Mount Everest. I conquered myself. That shows his strength. Not the fact that he conquered Mount Everest, but he conquered his fear. That's what Lord Krishna means by Mahabaho. And even Swami Vivekananda has told all of us that we are Rishi Putras. That we are the sons and daughters of, not our parents, but Rishis. When the Panditji asks, what's your Gotra? Then we say Kashyap or Vishwamitra. Because that's who our ancestors are. So why do we think we're limited when the Lord is telling us we're not limited? That we can be Mahabaho too. And he calls him, he says, Priyamanaya. Priyamanaya means the one who is delighted. Delighted what? To hear, Shruti. Arjuna's delighted to hear Lord Krishna? But there are so many shlokas at the end of chapter 1 and the beginning of chapter 2 where Arjuna's Gandiva Samsrate, Hasta, slips from his hands. He starts seeing omens. He says, Mukham Parishushati, my mouth is totally dry. What happened? All of a sudden he's happy to hear all of these words? It shows that with understanding, growth comes. As Arjuna understood more and more what Lord Krishna had to say, he started transforming himself. He said at the beginning of chapter 2, I will not speak. And then if we fast forward to Shloka 54, he asked Lord Krishna, how does the master speak? How does he sit? How does he talk? He's fascinated by this knowledge, and he's literally changing as he's understanding. And for you and I, the glory of Sanatana Dharma, the glory of Brahma Vidya, is the more we know, the more we change. That is the power of knowledge. Have we all seen those pictures, where you have to stick your nose closed and then you have to move back and that 3D image comes out? Everyone's tried that. If you haven't, then try that. It's a lot of fun. Or we've received those forwards where they show a lamp. It looks like a lamp, but it also looks like two faces facing each other, or an old woman and a young woman. Once you know what those images are, you can never forget that, correct? Once I know it's an old woman and a young woman, then I can't forget that. Knowledge is the same way. Once I've been transformed, that's it. I've been transformed. That is the power of this knowledge. And that's why Lord Krishna says, Yaha pashyati, sa pashyati. The one who sees, truly sees. But seeing here is not with the eyes. Seeing here is understanding. And Brahmavid, Brahmeva, Bhavati. The one who knows Brahman is Brahman. See, it's not academics. I'm not a professor. You're not academic students. We are here for yoga. And not yoga, shavasana yoga. We are here for yoga, which means to change. To change ourselves from that person who's dependently happy to that person who is independently happy. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, listen to me again. Because Lord Krishna has shared this message to Arjuna already. This is 10 chapters of the same message. Actually, 9 chapters, because the teaching doesn't start till chapter 2. But the message hasn't changed. The message is, Arjuna, the wise don't grieve for the living or the dead. And the point is, they don't grieve, period. All they do is, what Gurudev has taught our Baghavad children, keep smiling. That's it. That's what the wise people do. They just keep smiling. Like who? Like Lord Rama. Dasharatha says to Rama, Rama, tomorrow will be your coronation ceremony. You will be the next king of Ayodhya. And what does he do? Smile. Then a few moments later, Rama, your father wants you to go to the forest for 14 years. And what does he do? Smile. And so much so, when he went to his mother to let her know this, the first thing he says, my father gave me the kingdom of Ayodhya. Now he's made me a much greater king, the king of the forest. My subjects were the people of Ayodhya. Now my subjects are the sadhus and the saints that live in the forest. And he even says, how long are you going for, Lord Prince Rama? He doesn't say 14 years. He says, I'm going for 7 years and then another 7 years. Almost like, yeah, I can't wait for 7 years to be finished, so I can do another 7 years. Samatvam yoga uchyate. The highest yoga is even-mindedness. We need to learn this, especially when it comes to emails. When someone sends us something rude, we automatically send back. But what they're saying now, a lot of CEOs teach the 7 rule, which means wait 7 seconds before speaking. When someone insults us or says something negative, wait 7 seconds, then speak. I don't agree with that because 7 seconds is not long enough, because I'll wait till 7 and I'll be thinking about what I can say to you. We should wait 24 hours and then press send. Write the email, no doubt. Let those emotions come out. But there's a save file there for a reason. Just save it and then tomorrow reread it, then press send. Because in 24 hours we'll go from that anger back to, hopefully, that even-mindedness. So Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna what he's already told him. He says, hear me again. And like I said, there's only one message in Vedanta, Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art divine. In our ashram in Niagara Falls, it's called Chinmaya Dhara. And since I have 5 days, I'm going to tell you lots of stories. And I want to tell you why the word Dhara is so beautiful. Dhara means falls. And Guruji gave the name Chinmaya Dhara, indicating there's now 2 falls in Niagara Falls. One is of water that the Lord created, and there's one of knowledge. Chinmaya means knowledge, which Gurudev has initiated. Guruji has come to Niagara Falls in 2009, 10, and 11. We've been very lucky that 3 years in a row that he's come to our ashram. And in 2009, for our inauguration, he had said that Chinmaya Dhara is going to be that powerhouse that's going to drench the community with knowledge. And what's going to happen is right now we are all Dhara. Our energy is always directed outside, towards food, towards entertainment, towards XYZ for happiness. But with knowledge, Dhara will turn into Radha. And Radha is always looking at the source of joy, who is Lord Krishna. And we have Bhagavati Radha and Lord Krishna in our ashram. So in the same way, Lord Krishna is saying, thou art divine. So now we're thinking, if it's only one message, why study 10 chapters? There's 108 Upanishads, why study them all? When we were in the Vedanta course, we studied almost 70 different texts. All these Upanishads, Ramayana, Vivekji, Tattvabodha, Atmabodha, Manisha Panchakam, lots of texts. And when I share this with people, they think, why did you study all of these texts? But it's no different than how we get evaluated. Now, the new evaluation technique is a 360-degree evaluation, correct? My suppliers, my subordinates, my boss, because it's an accurate depiction of who I am. So the same way, Tattvamasi, we don't get it from a direct view, so we want to see it from this view, this view, this view, this view. We want to see it from 360 degrees, because that's the only way it will filter into our personality. We study all of these scriptures because it's practical. Because that's how we learn, through repetition. And Lord Krishna says here, what I'm going to teach you, this vachaha, these words are parama. They are supreme. This is the absolute good. And I'm teaching this to you, hitakamyaya, for your welfare. O Mahabaho, listen to me again, because you're pleased to hear me, as I tell you this supreme word for your welfare. Remember in chapter 4, when Lord Krishna says, I come and I manifest again and again and again. When a dharma goes up and dharma goes down, I come to bring that back to balance. And here he's supporting that comment, that I'm here for your welfare. Is Lord Krishna here to teach himself? He is here for Arjuna. And what Madhusudana Saraswati says here, this word hitakamyaya, he says our greatest friend is Lord Krishna. Imagine, the greatest friend is Bhagavan. And as I was reflecting on this shloka, it made me think about my guru. I studied under Swami Tejamayana and his guru, and the whole Guru Parampara. How patient they must be, listening to the questions we have, the way we behave, and so on. But they still do it cheerfully, still accept us wholeheartedly. Truly, our greatest friend is our Guru, is Bhagavan. What kind of message is this? Lord Krishna elaborates in Shloka 2. And now I can't give you the page numbers all the time because we're all reading different texts. Name vidussuraganaha
Name vidussuraganaha
Prabhavam namaharshayaha
Prabhavam namaharshayaha
Aham adir hi devanam
Aham adir hi devanam
Maharshinam cha sarvashaha
Maharshinam cha sarvashaha
Name vidussuraganaha Prabhavam namaharshayaha Aham adir hi devanam Maharshinam cha sarvashaha. What Lord Krishna says here is, Na vidu. They do not understand. Who doesn't understand? Suraganaha and Maharshayaha. Suraganaha is the Devatas, the Suras. And the opposite of Suras is Asura. And Maharshayaha, the Maharishis. They do not understand, they do not know Prabhava, my origin. And who's speaking here? Lord Krishna. Why don't they understand? Why don't the Devatas and Maharishis understand you? Aham Adi. Because I am ancient. I am the beginning. And in Vishnu Sahasranama, Adi is one of the words. It means the original. I am the original. In a Puranic sense, Bhagavan Shri Krishna is the original being. Imagine that the first entity ever that was Lord Krishna. So naturally he's there before the Devatas and the Rishis, because he's there. It's like me saying, my grandfather was naturally there before I was there. Obviously, so he's the original being for me in this relative scale. Now at a practical level, because I don't want us to get lost in these Puranic import. This chapter has a lot of cultural aspects to this. And I don't know a lot about the culture, and I don't want us to get lost in this. Because what we should be asking is, what can I do with this knowledge? How can I live this knowledge? See this water here? If Kirtiji is thirsty, and I hold up this bottle, does his thirst get quenched? No. If he puts this water in his mouth, does his thirst get quenched? No. It's only when that water goes inside of him, when it's internalized, will his thirst be quenched. So at every shloka of Gita, I should ask myself, what can I do with this? So at a practical level, this Suraganaha, which means Devata, Deva, the etymology of Deva means that which illumines. Now in my life, what illumines for me is my sense organs. These ears illumine sound. This tongue illumines taste. Even though the tongue doesn't taste, it's the nose, they say that, where real taste comes from smelling. So when it says Suraganaha, think about the body. And the Maharishis, that represents the mind. So before the body and mind came was what? Lord Krishna. And who is Lord Krishna? That life principle. Before this body, before this mind was life. That life principle that enlivens me. That's the implication of this shloka. See how it makes a lot more sense? The practical import for you and I? Bhagavan Shri Krishna is the causeless cause. The cause for this water bottle is plastic. The cause of plastic is ore from the earth. The cause of the earth is the Big Bang. What is the cause of the Big Bang? There has to be the causeless cause, that original cause. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. That is me. And he says, now vidu, they will never know. Because how can the earth know the Big Bang? How can this water bottle know what the ore of the earth is? Our true nature can never be made an object. This is an object. I see it, I can study it, I know it because it is different than me. How can I know myself? Because if I know myself, then what has happened? It's become the object. Lord Krishna is not the object. He is the subject. And there is only one subject. Now I want to caution everyone that this requires some thinking. Because everything we know in life is objective. Everything you and I went to school for was an objective science. This is a subjective science. We're studying ourselves. This is a recurring thought, so let us think about it more. And the example I will share with everyone to try to understand this is, no one has ever seen their face. We've only seen reflections of our face. In water, in a mirror, what you see of me, but I've never seen my own face. And I'll never be able to see my own face. I only see a reflection of my face. Isn't that fascinating? This is the same way. That I will only see the objective part of me, my hands, my body, my mind, my intellect, my ego, but I can never see that which allows me to see. Think about that. What this subject is, why I should study this subjective message, comes out in Shloka 3. And why I love this shloka is because Lord Krishna is telling us why we should study. Because we love to know how we benefit. That's why at the end of each suktam or Hanuman Chalisa, what comes? Phalashuti. Why I should chant this? What do I get out of this? So in the same way, why should I keep reading? Why should I keep listening? This comes out in Shloka 3. Yo mama jammanadi cha.
Yo mama jammanadi cha.
Veti loka maheshwaram.
Veti loka maheshwaram.
Asammuda samartyeshu.
Asammuda samartyeshu.
Sarva papai pramuchyate.
Sarva papai pramuchyate.
Yo mam ajamanadim cha. Veti loka maheshwaram asammudasamartheshu sarva pape pramuchate. What Krishna says here is Veti, no. Man, me. Ajam, Anadi, Loka, Maheshwara. Know me as Ajam. Ja means born. Padmaja, meaning that which is born in water. Padmaja means a lotus, but the implication is that which is born in water. So Ajam means that which is not born. Anadi, that which is beginningless. And Loka Maheshwaram, the one who is the Lord of all of our lokas. So now I'll elaborate. Anything that dies has to be born. But another name of Lord Krishna is Achyuta. Achyuta means that which never falls. In other words, that which never dies. So that which never dies can't be that which is born. So this is why birthless. And beginningless, birthless, they're the same, but it's just a different perspective that's offered. Birthless, beginningless, it's the same. And the example Gurudev uses is, the wave is born and the wave dies. But is the ocean born? The ocean is not born, and so the ocean doesn't die. Even though now we are killing our oceans with global warming. But in an example form, this is the idea. I'll share with you a funny incident I had about global warming. We've studied the 24 gurus that Lord Dattatreya has. He has 24 gurus whom he learned from. And one of them is the ocean. Because the ocean, all the rivers of the world go into oceans, but the ocean level never rises and never falls. And what Lord Dattatreya learns is that all of the praise or all of the insults that come, the ocean remains stable, like we're supposed to be. So I was sharing this to some Baghavad students, and as soon as I said it, everyone's hand went up. And they said, Vivekji, but the ocean levels are going up. And I was like, yeah, I was so happy that they were paying attention. And now I need to change that example. So the same way, when I say that the ocean is not born and the ocean doesn't die, philosophically, we know the ocean was born and the ocean does die, but philosophically. So I am without birth, I am without beginning, and I am Loka Maheshwara. Maha Ishvara is Maheshwara. Now Loka, whenever we think of Loka, we think of the world. But the actual word Loka means field of experience. And our field of experience is not just this world. Because right now if I say, let's go to the moon, our body's not there, but our mind is over there. Have you all seen the movie Inception? Good, okay, at least some of you have seen Inception. There's a great scene in Inception where Arthur tells Sato, I don't want you to think about elephants. And then he asks him, what are you thinking about? He says, elephants. Right? So our field of experiences is not just this world. It is the waking state, it is the dream state, it is the sleep state. Our field of experiences is quite magnificent. Think about our dreams. So often we're not in the world. The Lord is the Lord of all of these, not just the waking state. And the reason why He's the Lord of all of this is because without the presence of that life principle, what dream would we have? Why do we wake up from sleep? Because that life principle is still there. And I'll prove it to you right now. I want everyone to close their eyes. My eyes are open, so I know if your eyes are closed or not. Now, if I asked you, are you here? I hope your response would be yes. Now you can open your eyes. You don't need these eyes to know that you're here or not. You already know because you have awareness. You are awareness. That's what Lord Krishna is trying to say. That I am the master, I am the Lord of all of these fields. And this Lord is beyond name and form. There's such a great problem in the world with religion right now. And the problem is not religion. The problem is those who interpret religion. Our rishis have said, Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti. There is one truth, and the wise call it by many names. The fools call it by one name. Jesus only. Krishna only. Allah only. I'm a fool. Jesus and Krishna and Allah and I am that wise person. We are talking about the life principle. This life principle doesn't have a name. This life principle doesn't have a form. I was in Pittsburgh recently, and we were studying our inner enemies, and I asked some Baghavad students, so tell me, who are your enemies? And they started naming Priya, David, Jyoti. They started giving me all these names. And I said, stop, don't give me names. The enemies are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, those inner enemies, right? So in the same way, we're talking about that life principle. That is the Lord. See, a lot of us have bindis on right now, or tikas. And we don't know really why we have these. This tika, bindi, tilak, represents that this is my third eye. With these two eyes, I see depth, right? Even if I lose one eye, my depth perception is gone. With these two fleshy eyes, I see differences. Girls, boys, tall, short. I also see rich, poor with these eyes. I also see illiterate, illiterate with these eyes too. With these eyes, this eye, I am supposed to see your essence, your life principle. With these eyes, I see names and forms. With this eye, I see essence. This is a reminder for me to look at you as acknowledging functionally, this is a girl, this is a boy. You go to the girl's bathroom, I go to the boy's bathroom. But the reason you're alive and the reason I'm alive is one. This is what the reminder is for me to you and you to me. And I was walking down a street in Niagara Falls once, and a girl came up to me and says, do you have any spare change? And I said no, and I was laughing in my head. I said, I don't give money, I ask people for money. And she said, do you have some paint on your forehead? Because I was wearing my dhoti, kurta, and tika. And I said, it's not paint, it's a tika. What does it mean? It means you and I are one. And she goes, no, we're not. And I explained to her what I just explained to you, saying that it means that the reason you're alive and the reason I'm alive is one. And she goes, but we're not married. See, when I look at it so literally, how I can only be one if I'm married to one other person? That means I have to marry everybody if I want to identify with everyone? That's illegal, right? Bigamy is not allowed in this country. We have to look beyond the names and forms to the essence. That's Loka Maheshwara. We know this, but we don't know this. But when we truly know this, Veti, when we truly know this, then Sarva Papehi Pramuchate. Sins cannot touch us. See, a papa, or a sin, can only affect a ego. There has to be an ego there. And an ego is always associated with, ego is only present where there is ignorance. And where there is knowledge, there cannot be ignorance. Where there is light, there cannot be darkness. Where there is Rama, there cannot be Kama. Rama being Ananda and Kama being desire. So when Lord Krishna says that one is free from sins, it means that the ego is not there anymore. And now putting it at a an example that you and I will understand is, if I have debts, I owe money to the bank or to the neighbor or to a loan shark, and I die, then those debts cannot be collected. They disappear then. They probably get passed on to my family, but the point is that they don't belong to me anymore. So in the same way, when the ego is destroyed, is transcended, all sins get wiped away. And Ramakrishna Paramahansa teaches this most beautifully. He jokes about how we all have this inclination that if I go to the Ganga, that all of my sins will be washed away. Right? And it's true. But, and this is what Ramakrishna Paramahansa jokes, he says, even before our first toe hits that water in the Ganga, our ego jumps off and waits on a tree. And then we go into the Ganga and we bathe and we drink, and all of our sins are washed away. And before our first toe hits the ground, that sinner jumps back on. And this is even better for us because now we feel clean so we can commit more sins, right? But we're not talking about cleaning up sins. We're talking about cleaning up the sinner. And it's so sad that so many people miss out on this. I spoke at Sri Venkateshwara Temple last week in Pittsburgh, one of the oldest temples in North America. And they made lots of announcements and posters, you know, our Chinmaya Mission Acharya is coming to speak. And when I went to the auditorium, the only people in the audience were our Chinmaya Mission people. And a major reason why this is because a lot of us only promote culture only, or rituals only. But culture and rituals don't help us when push comes to shove. When I don't get along with my wife, or a coworker, or the neighbor's a nuisance, the fact that I can play the tabla or I can speak Telugu doesn't help the situation out. The fact that I can chant all of these mantras doesn't help the situation. But if I know how my mind works, and I know the capabilities of another person, that's what helps. We are trying to address the sinner, not just the sin. Sins are temporary. They come and go. It is the sinner we want to address so that sins can never touch us. And what Gurudev has taught us is that sins are not in the clouds somewhere. They're not in hell beneath us. Sin is here and now. Sin is that reaction. Sin is not in the action, but it's in the reaction. When I'm sad, when I lose my peace, that means I've sinned. So doesn't it make sense for me to get rid of this now? To enjoy now? Such a person is free. Such a person is immortal. And what Madhusudana Saraswati has taught us is that the yield of living this shloka is so great, which is why few people pursue this path. This path requires our participation. It requires me to change. But we don't like change. But if we do, we will be immortal. We will be independent, constant, and limitless when it comes to happiness. This is why we study these shlokas. Now Bhagavan Krishna continues to teach why he is the source of all. We'll read shloka 4 and 5. Each pada, we'll repeat it, then we'll do 5. Buddhir jnanam asammohaha
Buddhir jnana sammohaha
Kshama satyam damashamaha
Kshama satyam damashamaha
Sukham dukkham bhavo bhavaha
Sukham dukkham bhavo bhavaha
Bhuyam cha bhayameva cha
Bhuyam cha bhayeva cha
Buddhir jnanam asammohaha Kshama satyam damashamaha Sukham dukkham bhavo bhavaha Bhayam cha bhayam cha bhayameva cha. Ahimsa samata tushtihi.
Ahimsa samata tushtihi.
Tapodanam yasho yashaha.
Tapodanam yasho yashaha.
Bhavanti bhava bhutanam.
Bhavanti bhava bhutanam.
Matta eva pratagvidaha.
Matta eva pratagvidaha.
Ahimsa samata tushtihi. Tapodanam yasho yashaha. Bhavanti bhava bhutanam. Matta eva pratagvidaha. And what Lord Krishna says here is buddhihi, which is intelligence, jnanam, wisdom. Asammohaha, which is that who is not deluded. Kshama, forgiveness. Satyam, truth. Damaha, sense control. Shamaha, tranquility of mind. Sukham, happiness. Dukkham, unhappiness. Bhavaha, existence. Abhavaha, non-existent, existence. Bhayam, fear. Abhayam, fearless. Ahimsa, non-injury. Samata, even-mindedness. Tushtihi, contentment. Tapaha, austerity. Danam, charity. Yashaha, fame. Ayashaha, infamy. All of these, bhavanti, all of these are because in all animals, bhutanam, all creatures, is because of me. He's saying all of this happens because of me. Whenever we think of creation, whenever we think the source of all, we always think about something that is physical. We think of something that is gross. It's very similar to how if a husband goes to work and the wife stays at home, the husband gets a paycheck and the wife doesn't, and everyone says that the husband works and the wife doesn't. When the only difference is the paycheck. Correct? See how that's how we think. It's always very physical, very gross. But Lord Krishna gives all of these qualities, all of these non-qualities, to show us that he's not just the source of the outer world, but he is also the source of the inner world. He is the creator of all. All of these qualities, all of these vices, whether they're positive or negative, without awareness, they would not be there. If I'm not alive, what anger can there be? What charity can there be? Without awareness, how will I know that I'm famous or infamous? It all starts with this awareness. And now that we've studied 5 shlokas, remember the question that I said that we have to ask ourselves? What can I do with this? These shlokas are indicating to us that we are that awareness. So naturally, what can I do with this is practice awareness. Live in the moment. Don't worry, be happy. This is everything people put on bumper stickers and make us buy. But live in the moment. Who here lives in the moment? We're always regrets of the past, worries of the future. It's so easy to say live in the moment. It's so easy to say practice awareness. But how? Gurudev was leaving immigration once. And we all say, have a good day, how are you, etc. So the immigration officer told Gurudev, have a good day. And he looked at him and said, how? Right? So the same way I can tell you all day, practice awareness. But how? For many of these shlokas, I'm going to share a lakshana. Lakshana means pointer. And these lakshanas that I will share are ways that we can bring these shlokas to life. And so the lakshana for these first series of shlokas, tomorrow, pick one activity that you do every day. Hopefully it means, brushing your teeth or bathing or eating obviously is going to be there. But pick an activity you do every day, a simple activity, a short activity, and do it with complete attention. And the activity I would suggest we all do is brushing our teeth. So we go to the sink, shut everything else out. Watch as the hand picks up the toothbrush, squeezes a paste under the sink to wet it. Feel the foam, feel the bristles, feel the friction, feel the rinsing. Total awareness. Then do it in the evening too. And keep on practicing this. And the idea is that slowly I'll stop just doing it while I'm brushing, and I'll do it while I'm showering. Then breakfast, then driving, then speaking, then thinking. First thing we do in the car, what do we do as soon as we turn the car on is? Radio goes on. That way I don't have to pay attention to driving. What kind of attitude is that, right? I'm driving 55 miles an hour while not paying attention. They say 90% of our driving is unconscious. Only 10% of the time we're actually paying attention to the scene around us. Through baby steps, like brushing our teeth, we'll slowly practice awareness all the way up to the ego. And when I'm aware of the ego, I will realize I'm not that ego. And when I know I'm not the ego, I have no more sins. I am free. This is how to bring this shloka to life. Tomorrow, we will continue to study how Lord Krishna is the source of all and get into some technical details. Then the day after that, that's where the fun really begins. Tomorrow will be fun too, so make sure you come. But the real fun will begin after that. Because Lord Krishna starts saying, I am the rishi of all rishis. I am the food of all food. I am the cloud of all clouds. And what we'll try to do is connect that to our day-to-day affairs. I am the movie of all movies. I am the song of all songs. I am the relationship of all relationships. So we'll try to find spirituality in our day-to-day affairs. Because often, we can't go to Vedanta, so if we can bring Vedanta to us, the same transformation takes place. That's what our game plan will be. Now we have around 10 minutes, a little bit less than that, for any questions that anyone may have on any matters. And if you do, just stand up, your name, and speak loudly so everyone can hear you. And don't be shy. We have two of the greatest fears in life. Number one is death, and number two, public speaking. So if you have a question, this is your opportunity to overcome that fear of public speaking. Yes?
Vivekji.
Please stand up, nice and loud.
Yes. My name is Ajay. So my question is, I know you've been born and brought up here. So when did you actually start associating with Chinmaya mission, and how did you get into Chinmaya?
Sure. See, I told you nobody wants to know that. See, I already know. That's why I gave that option. If I said just questions from chapter 10, for 15 minutes we'll look at each other like this. The first Chinmaya mission camp I went to was in 1997. I was born and raised in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side, the better side. You all know it's better too, so why are you saying that? And we had Baghavad on and off because it was a small city, so sometimes classes, sometimes not classes. But the real first impact was in '97. And there I met Swami Sharanananda and Swami Tejamananda, and I had my first taste of an inspired living. And after that camp, I would get up earlier, I would eat less, I would listen to my parents more, just like we all do. Right after the yajna, I'm going to live all of these shlokas, I'm going to pay attention while I brush. Then on Saturday when I leave in the evening, right, what brush my teeth? You know, we won't even brush our teeth then. And I loved it. We all loved inspired living. And then it all went away. And I was grateful that my father and mother, they used to take, I have an older sister and a younger sister. We would go to Orlando, Los Angeles, and we would make that our family vacation. 1 week at Disney World, 1 week Chinmaya mission camp. So everyone's happy in that regard. So up and down with that inspiration. Then I reached a point where I had finished university and I was doing commercial real estate and retail management. When we're in high school, we look forward to university, correct? You don't have to live at home, you can do whatever you want. When we're in university, we look forward to working, and we have all the money in the world if we're making money, and you can do what you want. Then after university, we look forward to getting married, after marrying kids, and on and on and on. And we always look forward to the next stage of life. And here I was, having started working, and I had all the friends in the world. I was healthy, I traveled so much. Money, you know, my father and mother have a business, and since I was a child, I worked there. And with my own hands, I've counted at least $1 million in cash, not credit or check. So lots of everything. But there'd be mornings when I would wake up and I'd look at the ceiling and say, if I don't leave this room, no one in the world is going to care, and I don't either. What difference am I making to myself or to anyone else? Or I'd get out of the shower in the morning and I'd be tired. And at this point, I'm 23, 24 years old, and I'm tired. Not physically though, but regrets of the past, worries of the future. And I thought, is this the life that I'm going to live for the next 60, 80 years? I can't. And that's when I found out about the Vedanta course. And I said, I'm going to apply it and see what happens. Because staying here is going to be harder than going there. This option of not changing is worse than changing. And in 2004, I was at York University because Guruji was speaking. And he always comes right on time for a discourse. But that day he came a little bit earlier. And I caught up to him and I said, Swamiji, I'm thinking about joining the upcoming Vedanta course. And he laughed and slapped me in the back and said, learn as much Sanskrit as you can before you come. And it didn't register in my mind at that time that I was accepted. That, you know, he was teaching, which is, I can't even describe to you the fortune of learning from a master like that 3-4 classes a day for 2 years. You know, we barely get half an hour or a few classes in years. You need to live with him for so long. Anyways. And funny, I did try to learn Sanskrit. I bought the Rosetta Stone copy, and every day I'd go to the public library and spend an hour trying to learn. But I just couldn't. I couldn't even learn Devanagari. In January, our applications were due, and I sent it in. And the person I am today, I was completely opposite in 2005. Highly extroverted. Work lots, party lots, travel lots, eat lots, everything. And I thought there's no way they're going to accept me. But in March, there was the acceptance letter. And it's false positive. Something's going to happen. I'm going to get sick, or someone's going to get married, or there'll be a child. That will happen. But the months kept on passing, and I was at the Pearson Airport in Toronto, and all my family and friends are there, and I'm about to leave for 2.25 years, and who knows what I'm going to do? Nobody knows how to live in an ashram unless you've lived there. Everything else is just a marchitrikatha. They're just stories, right? And I went. And it was extremely difficult leaving the people you love, the people that you grew up with, getting into something you have no idea about. And I arrived in Mumbai. I got to the ashram at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he showed me to my room. And I was happy that it was a clean room and that the mosquito net was working. So I was happy about all of that. But the next day, you know, I'm walking in my cargo pants and my plaid shirt and my long curly hair, and everyone's wearing their dhoti and kurta, and everyone's bowing down, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And it was extremely intimidating because it's so hot in Mumbai in September. And that night, my friend had given me a journal prior to when leaving, and he said, write. So that night I wrote in my journal, I have 2 options right now. I can make this hard on myself, or I can make this easy. And I said, for the next 4 months, I'm going to make this easy. I'm going to immerse myself in this atmosphere. And I say 4 months because prior to going, there was a pool in our community about how long I was going to last at the Vedanta course. And the typical guess was 1 month. And I remember being at a get-together, and one of the uncles came up and said, Beta, we'll see you in 1 week. I myself was openly telling people I'll be back in 6 months because I don't belong there, but I don't know what else to do. But from that second day onwards, I never looked back. I immersed myself in there, and I studied and studied and studied. 18-hour days for 2.25 years. No cell phone, no computer, no friends, no restaurant, no money. That ashram is 7 acres, and you're not allowed to leave unless you get permission from Guruji, which you dare not ask. And there's a security guard there, so even if you try to escape, he'll catch you. And that was a drastic change. You know, I've been to 45 countries, I've just traveled my whole life, and now I can't leave these 7 acres. But I loved it. And after those 2 years, in our last month, prior to finishing the course, in those 2 years, I never thought about teaching Vedanta. Because I went there to study. I went there to be happy. I asked my question, am I happy? And the answer was not independently, not constantly, and not limitlessly. Which means I needed to change. So I went. But I went for myself to study. And in that last month, I just had this revelation that inevitably I will have to teach. In Niagara Falls for sure, because we have Chinmaya mission activities. They'll want to know what I've learned. And more importantly, I hit the jackpot of happiness. And I have so much I naturally want to share it. Just like we would do if we had money, right? You win $50 million, you donate here, you take everyone on a vacation, because there's too much. And that's what I did. I came back in October of 07. I lived in India for that long. And in November, it was just a month of socializing, you know, people asking what you did. December, I went to Orlando to meet Guruji again, and I started teaching in January. 2 classes a week. And there, it just grew and grew and grew. I teach over 60 classes a month now. And I was sharing with various people that I drive 500 miles a week to get to the different classes. Today was my 35th flight of 2011. And it'll be 50 by the time the year ends. So how did I get into Vedanta? Vedanta got into me. And I simply said, what is to be is going to be. I feel that I didn't choose this path chose me, and I simply allowed it to, because a lot of times we don't allow it to. And I said, I need to change. And I allowed it to happen. And even more beautifully is that in 1997, at the first camp I went to, I met my wife. I met Sheila in 1997, and we didn't see each other 7 years till the day I got accepted to the Vedanta course at that same lecture. That's where I saw her again. So our relationship developed in front of Guruji as well. So like I said, I just allowed all of this to happen. And if there's anything to learn from this story, if there is to let him, he's already going to do what he wants. We can either fight it or we can flow with it. So better attitude is to flow with it, because then there's more smiling and less crying. That's a long answer to your short question. And now we don't have any more time for questions. So tomorrow we will continue. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Yati nastyatra samshayah. Whatever is the bhava that we carry, the drishti that we carry, that is what gets extended in our next experience. Isn't that what we have seen? So at the last moment of our life, whatever is the thought that we carry, bhava that we carry, the next life, we open our chapter with that bhava. Like today we have just come to the 5th shloka. So tomorrow, what shloka are we going to look into? Meaning of the fifth and forward. Right? Wherever we are stopping today. Similarly with the life, wherever it has paused, you start fresh with that paused moment. Isn't it? Now there is a long movie that you are watching. You pause. It's too long. It's good, but it's too long. Usually most of the Desi movies are Lagan. 2.5 hours. Well done, well made, but 2.5 hours? 1 hour one day, another half an hour one day, another one. So when you stop at one point, pause at one point, where do you start next day? Same place where you stopped. Similarly, whatever is the bhava, whatever is the intention that we finish in one life, we start with the same intention, or rather we become that intention in next life. How does it lead to tension? That we will see tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om